Hello and welcome into the Knicks-Verse pregame live show with my good friend, Lee Escobedo. What's up, brother?
What's up,
How are
brother,
you
man?
doing,
Good to be
man?
back. I always enjoy our conversations, and this one's especially fun to relish because we're actually on a really awesome win streak. The Knicks look for real. That's a relative word. It could mean a lot of different things, but to me, I'm feeling the 50 burger is frying up on the grill right now.
You got the 50 burger cooking?
I sure do.
All
Been
right.
having
Well,
it since day
we're
one.
going to get into it. We're going to make a tremendous argument for why. I mean, really, any team in the East should fear the Knicks in the playoffs. The one team, maybe, possibly, not even maybe, possibly, for sure, definitely, that the Knicks will have trouble with is Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And even them, we've played them tight a couple of times. So even they would be an interesting matchup. I could see it going to, I could see that even going 6 games. But we're going to go through the matchups. What would be the best first round matchups for the Knicks in the playoffs? You know, if we keep going the way we're going right now. Right now, it's looking like the Philadelphia 76ers would be the primary one, or the Cleveland Cavaliers. One of those two teams, barring Miami catching fire and shooting up the standings, or some miracle with the Nets happening, which I doubt it. We're only 19 games left in this season. Isn't that crazy?
It is.
It's wild, man. It's wild.
You're
So we're going to
wild.
go through that, and then we're going to look at whether Immanuel Quickley should win the Sixth Man of the Year award. And we have 2 different points of view on that. So we'll give you our arguments. We have a lot of interesting stats and charts to show you to support both of our arguments. Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit that thumbs up button for us. And if you're watching this on replay, drop your comments. Please appreciate the comments. I read them all. And shout out to the chat. We got DJ Dax. What's up, brother? Got Sincere the Genius. Tony Ortiz is in the house. All right. I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of people joining us as we move forward. Before we get going, Lee, what has this been the single most surprising thing that has happened this NBA season in terms of the Knicks?
Tom Thibodeau adjusting. I've seen him do things I never thought he would do. Bench Derrick Rose completely, take him out the rotation. Never thought he would bench. It seems to be a very good friend of his, a mentee,
Yeah.
and at sometimes a crutch, and at least with the Knicks and maybe a little bit Minnesota. And also has adjusted really defensively and offensively since Mitchell Robinson came back. And after that loss to Dallas, there's been a more concentrated effort to defend the 3-ball. Whereas drop coverage was our mainstay, primary defensive identity for the first 3 or 4 months of the season. Now we're really starting to for our centers to stretch out to the 3-point line and be involved in switching. And no one does that better than Mitchell Robinson. I mean, he's better than Hartenstein and Sims combined. He has a length, ability, spacing, footwork to be able to guard perimeter guys on a 3 and even block a 3-point shot. So having him is a linchpin to our defense, and Thibs is starting to utilize him in a way where we're limiting opposing teams' 3-point field goal and their attempts, which is awesome. And look what we did to the Boston Celtics in the last game, limiting their 3-point percentage to almost 20% or under. As well in offense, I think the ball is starting to move a little bit more. I'm starting to see less isolation plays and more action and pin downs for RJ Barrett and Quentin Grimes and Immanuel Quickley, which also comes with more trust to the youngsters as well. Quentin Grimes is still in the starting lineup, even though Josh Hart is playing a few more minutes, but he's still trusting him to be the glue guy in that starting 5 and be the one who doesn't demand the ball or have plays ran for him primarily, but someone who is there in terms of his defensive intensity and the intangible that he brings, bring all those other guys together. So I'm loving the ball movement from Brunson being more of a facilitating point guard than he was in the first 4 months. I think a lot of that is Tom Thibodeau changing his approach and evolving, not just game to game, but quarter by quarter. And that's what we as a fan base have been betting for since he came on board.
Man, you like it was beautiful. You nailed like everything I basically would have said in terms of supporting that point of view of Tom Thibodeau being the most surprising thing for the Knicks this season. I totally agree. He has he's made modifications almost to every single aspect of the way he coaches, tweaks. And that's really all we've been asking for, because a coach is not going to completely abandon what's worked for them.
Right.
but they got to tweak it. I mean, that's the whole point. And it seems like he's embraced that. You can see even in late game situations. That was a big beef about a month ago of mine specifically. How best to utilize Brunson, just not let the ball sit in his hands. It just makes it so much easier for defenses to guard. And I get the argument, oh, well, in the playoffs, it is going to come down to some ISO situations here and there. Well, it's not the playoffs yet. And number two, that's not necessarily even an accurate statement in terms of teams that actually win. Yeah, maybe teams that don't win have to resort to that. But Golden State Warriors keep moving that ball. They keep moving it. Boston Celtics keep moving that ball. When they don't move the ball is when they get into difficult situations, especially against top defensive teams. And as you move along, you're going to play tougher and tougher defenses. So you need that ball to keep moving. I've been asking for having the ball in IQ's hands in that fourth quarter, in those fourth quarters, even when Brunson's on the court, using Brunson off ball. Have his superior ability be something that you utilize off ball, which makes him even more of a threat. So all of that's happening. I think that's fantastic. For me, the biggest surprise has definitely been Julius Randle. That I did not believe that he could get himself back on track and not really get jump the rail again. There's been slight moments here and there, but he keeps gathering himself, bringing himself back, centering himself. And that is something that I did not believe was possible for him. Been watching him his whole career. Even in college, he was here in LA. I just didn't think it was in his wheelhouse. And there he is proving me wrong. And I'm so happy he has. Because in terms of talent, there's no doubt that the guy has it. I mean, in terms of just, he's pretty much near unguardable. I mean, his size, his strength, his technique. Now he's got this touch going. That's even evolved to a level of like a really high level right now. So that's for me is my my second biggest, but they're like almost equivalent. That was awesome. All right, we people are coming into the house here. I can see David L. Calvin Whitaker. What's up? Salute, guys. Okay, let's get to the main topic. Let's start talking about playoff matchups. And if people think it's crazy and early, it's not. Only after tonight, there'll only be 18 games left. That is it. Here we go. So these are the two teams that are looking like they're going to be, they're the most probable matchups for the Knicks currently. Would you have any disagreement with that or anything in terms of probable? Okay. These are the rosters, just laying them out there for us. The Knicks, Sixers, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. We are the youngest of these teams in terms of the active rotation. And we pretty much match up in terms of depth with these three squads, especially now by adding Hart, because now we've taken that dead roster spot that Cam Reddish had before, and now have activated it with an incredible contributor, Josh Hart. The Knicks are 6-0 in the Josh Hart era. Any insights or whatever in terms of the roster constructions, just in general, before we get into the actual stats and performance of these teams?
The Knicks have a youngest 9-man, or not 9-man, but the youngest rotation of any team with a winning record. And I think that speaks highly of the mental mindset and the type of player that Walt Perrin, Scott Perry, and Leon Rose, because this really manifested before Leon Rose. Scott Perry also had this type of player that he was going after. You can see the high IQ, high character guys that he cultivated in Orlando, and the type of guys that he cultivated as the assistant GM in Detroit Pistons when he was working under Joe Dumars. So he's kind of always had this identity of the type of guy that he wants. And RJ Barrett, I think, really embodies that. Even though RJ Barrett's had his issues up and down the court, off the court, you just don't hear about these guys getting into trouble or having any type of malcontents or locker room issues. So I think that's the type of team that we've gathered and galvanized around they're young, but they're mature and they're wise beyond their years. And I think you see that in the steadiness in which they bring on the court and each of their specific roles and usage rates, but also how they work collectively as a team on defense. So I have a lot of praise and admiration. I want to give Leon Rose and Scott Perry their flowers, especially Walt Perrin, for finding all those second round gems.
Beautiful, beautiful. The one thing I see that the Knicks lack a little bit is in overall size. That's the one area where we are definitely a little like behind the Sixers and the Cavaliers, but not by much. That's the beauty of getting Mitch back. That's another thing. Mitch coming back almost feels like a mid-season trade, getting him back in the rotation.
A hell of a one.
Yeah, tremendous one. So having Mitch back in there now gives us that 7-footer. He's actually almost like 7'1", to be honest. He gives us that, like, but we're talking in terms of like the wings. That definitely the Sixers got some more length on us than we have.
They have small guards too.
We have small guards.
Yeah, the Knicks do.
Yeah, the Knicks do. Yeah. Same with the Cavs have small guards, but they have a tremendous front line. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, and then whoever else they choose to put out there with them, Isaac Okoro. The guy Lamar Stevens is he's a force. So they definitely and the guy Dean Wade, who I like a lot. I'd like to see him as a Knick one day.
Me too.
Before we get further into the dynamics of the stats in terms of coaching, is there? I mean, we know Doc is the only one with an actual ring in terms of a head coach here, and ironically, Doc won that ring with Thibs as his defensive coordinator. Not coordinator, whatever they call him in Boston. What was his official thing? He was just assistant coach, right?
Yeah, I think he was an associate head coach, but he essentially was the defensive coordinator.
Yeah. And JB Bickerstaff, who his dad was a great coach. He's proven to be also an excellent young coach. I think, I'll just throw it out there first. I think it's very possible. I mean, I know we complain about Thibs's coaching style in general, but we also just acknowledged in the beginning and the upfront that one of the major surprises of this season has been how much he has adapted to the modern game. But it's possible it's pretty even in terms of the coaching. I don't think anyone has a really clear edge, and maybe Doc in playoffs, just because he's been there. He's been all the way to the very end. He's been to the finals, I think, twice as a coach. So in that respect, he might have the slight edge. But I don't think it's like anyone's going to get severely outcoached by the other coach if these are the matchups.
It's funny that you bring that up. I've been having the same discussion on other podcasts I've been a guest on, and my own podcast I co-host with Jay Ellis at the time, that there's not a coach in the East that scares me. The only coach that I would say is better than Tibbs, and I'm not the biggest Tibbs fan, is Spo in Miami. But
Spo's hands down the best.
Yeah,
coach
he is the best coach of the ones that are in the playoff hunt right now. But that roster doesn't scare me at all. I think they're a play-in team that might not even make the playoffs. They're cratering pretty bad right now. They're an old team that's on their last leg all around, with the exception of Bam and Jimmy. So really, any matchup, I think we have. Surprisingly, any matchup in the playoffs, I think we have the advantage coach-wise. Joe Mazzulla, Coach of the Year candidate, his first year, never coached in the playoffs. It's a different beast. And not everybody's Ime Udoka. Udoka had that experience, being with Pop and assistant coach, and also as a player, he's been in those scenarios before. So I think that helped him in the momentum of as a first-time coach into the finals. Same way Avery Johnson had that when he was a coach of the Mavs. He had that Popovich experience as well as a player and an assistant. So I think that will bode him well, but I'll still take Tibbs over him, certainly over Bud, who I think is an overrated coach and has the luxury of having the greatest player in the NBA on his roster. He's won a chip, but I think Thibodeau, man-to-man, is a better coach than him, as well as Doc Rivers. No one blows playoff leads like Doc Rivers. Historically, the most playoff lead blown is under his tenureship with Orlando, with the Clippers, and now with Philadelphia. So there's not a coach in the East that scares me, but there's about 7 in the West that do. Yeah. If you compare to the Western Conference coaches, the Mike Malones, Taylor Jenkins in Memphis, there are some really, really good coaches. Monty Williams, that I think Tibbs would get outclassed and outcoached by. Mm-hmm. But in the East, man, we go deep. I ain't scared of nobody.
The other thing too that doesn't always play that out that way, because we saw it last year. Ume Udoka was a rookie coach, but in general, there's a tremendous advantage to the coach knowing its roster into like really well. He knows, and he knows which buttons to push to get guys going. I think Thibs has the most experience in terms of actually longevity with with these current rosters than the other two coaches have.
Yeah, maybe it's like Doc.
It maybe even Doc. Well, Doc has only been this is year 3 for Doc, right?
Yeah, I think Bud has been there for like 4 seasons, maybe. And Doc like 3. Yeah, about the same as Tibbs.
About the same.
But more turnover.
More turnover. Well, much more turnover in the Sixers. He didn't have Harden before. Yeah. So that also does help. And one thing we know, these guys, even when we were like, coming down hard, or I'll speak for myself specifically, coming down hard on how Thibs was using the guys, his guys never quit on him.
Yeah.
And I think that's also very important. This is very, very different than 2 years ago. 2 years ago was very new. Thibs was still stuck in that, his viewpoint of what a point guard should be. And that's why the whole Elf situation was he waited until what, game 2 or 3 to make the switch to Derrick Rose, and by then it was like kind of too late. So I think his familiarity and time that he spent with these players themselves is going to give him also an advantage there. So I think in coaching, I think it's pretty evenish. No real major edge there. Now let's get to the next slide here. This is the win-losses of the entire season. Right now for the entire NBA. There's 3 teams tied at number 1 with 44 wins. Cleveland is 4th with 39 wins, and the Sixers are tied with Cleveland for 39 wins. Behind them, Memphis Grizzlies, 37 wins, and then are the New York Knicks, tied for 7th with 36 wins and 27 losses, which is still brings me a smile to my face when I say it. Unbelievable. Then when you look at, to me the key stats for especially team performance overall are the 3 ratings: offensive rating, defensive rating, and net rating. These are how many points a team scores or allows per 100 possessions. So in here, the Knicks for the entire season have a slightly better offense than both the Sixers and the Cavaliers. And that's kind of shocking when you consider Sixers have Embiid, they have Harden, they have Maxey. All these guys are just supposed to, wipe the floor with the Knicks. But nope, there we are. These are the actual numbers. The Knicks are 7th in the entire NBA for the entire season with 115.9 offensive points per game, offensive rating. Sixers are 115.4, so half a point less, and then the Cavaliers are 115.2. So, but very even, pretty much, 115 to 116 points. These 3 teams. Then you look at the defensive rating. Cavaliers are definitely, that's where they jump up. That's their wheelhouse. That's where they shine. That's where they work from there first. They lead. They lead these 3 teams in terms of defensive rating. They're 3rd in the entire NBA behind Milwaukee and the Grizzlies, but not much farther behind. Milwaukee's at 109.1, Grizzlies 109.4, and the Cavaliers are right there in 3rd, 109.6. In 7th are the Sixers, 111.7, and then the Knicks are 13th, 113.2. Now, also that includes this is the entire season,
right?
And Mitch has missed a lot of time, and we didn't have Josh Hart as well. So in terms of and the defense was a problem. That was one of the main reasons why Thibs made the switch on December 4th. He shortened the rotation. He took Cam and D Rose out of the rotation, who were 2 of the weaker defensive players by the numbers, in terms of the numbers. And he gave Quickley more floor time, and then brought Deuce into the rotation, who is known for his defense. And it worked. Now let's look at the net ratings, and then we're going to move on. We're going to show you guys what the numbers have been since December 4th, because the way teams are entering the playoffs really matters tremendously. So here, the net rating, Cavs are number 2 in the entire league, 5.5. And that's been they've been up there the whole year. And then you got the Sixers 5th in the NBA with a 3.8 net rating, and the Knicks are 7th with a 2.7 net rating, just above the Sacramento Kings, who are 8th, and just below the Milwaukee Bucks, a 3.7. So right there, you would say, if you look at just the whole season stats, you kind of can make an argument for Knicks are definitely the weakest of the three teams. Not by much, but a Sixers and a Cavs fan could easily say, "Hey, we got the stronger teams."
Yeah,
hear them
uninformed.
Yeah, exactly. But this is the whole season. Now let's look at since December 4th. Let's go.
Let's go.
Since December 4th. Now the Sixers are 3rd in terms of wins, 27-10. That's what they've been since December 4th. The Knicks are tied for 4th with the Boston Celtics with a 26-14 record, and the Cavs are right behind them with a 24-17 record. So the Cavs have played 41 games since December 4th. We've played 40. Sixers have played 37. Then let's get deeper. Offensive rating. Knicks are the 4th highest offensive rating team since December 4th. That's the past 40 games. We're talking about half of a season. Half of a season. The Knicks are the 4th highest rated offense in the NBA, with the Sixers right below. But look at the Cavs. The Cavs are no longer right up there really close. Remember, for the full season, everyone was on 115, the three teams. Now, the Knicks and Sixers offenses have become more efficient. They've become better, where the Cavs have stagnated, and they've dropped to 12th in the past 40-ish games. Then defensive rating, Cavs are still good, but they've dropped a little bit to 4th behind the Celtics, but the Knicks have ticked up. They were 13th in the NBA. They are now 8th. And also, this was a period of time where we did not have Mitch for about 15 of those games?
Hartenstein, baby.
Yeah. But still, Mitch is
right.
I mean, how many games were we missing Mitch in that period?
It felt like 5 or 8.
I think it was even more. I think it was even more. I thought it was like 15 games, but maybe you're right. I didn't count them exactly, but either way, Mitch was not present for a period of time of this during this period. The Sixers' defense has dropped off. Their defense is not as strong as it was in the beginning part of the season. They're down to 113.2 for 11th defensive rating in the NBA. Then net rating. This is where it gets fun. Look at this shit. Look at this. Look at that cluster. The Knicks, basically, the Sixers and Cavs are tied in net ratings with a 4.7. And the Knicks are almost an entire point better than both those teams, a 5.5. The Knicks are trending in the right direction. If I am a Sixers fan or a Cavs fan or work with the Sixers and Cavs, the one team I wouldn't want to play in the East right now would be the New York Knicks.
Yeah.
I mean, look, even Boston, Bucks. I mean, there's no one else even up there that's even possible for them to play, because Miami's not even up here in terms of net rating. This is when people start talking about, are the Knicks good? Yes, this is it. This is what they're looking at. The Knicks are beyond good. Knicks are a major threat to get to past the second round.
Oh, yeah. We're on the same wavelength, brother.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
I'm optimistic as hell. I know you are too.
I am. And, I'll tell you one thing. One of the reasons that I was furious with Thibs in those first 15 games, or the whole team, really, those first 15 to 20 games, is because they were making my optimism look like I was an idiot.
Yeah, me too.
I was saying, no, this team, this squad, this roster is better than they've been playing.
Yeah.
And we were, the Knicks suck. We got to trade everybody. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, they are underachieving. They underachieved last season, and they're underachieving again in the beginning of part of this season. And then, but the beauty was Dolan knew it as well. The message got to, when he did that interview, he basically said he wanted playoffs. He did, and then we heard through the grapevine that Thibs is basically his head was on the chopping block after that.
It should have been.
It should have been, but it definitely was. It should have been, and it definitely was definitely after the Mavs game, but after that OKC humiliation.
Yeah.
So he was there. So these other people were like, I don't know, trying to shame us because we didn't believe in what was happening. No, I did believe. I believe in the roster. I just didn't believe in how it was being executed.
George, man, me and you are on the same wavelength so often. It's funny. I was being roasted by my own co-host on the Time Show. From day one, I was the only Knicks content creator saying 50 burger. I watch every Mavs game. I'm the biggest Mavs hater you'll find. I live in Dallas, from Dallas, raised in Dallas. I love battling Mavs bums in debates about basketball because I feel like they're very uninformed fan base. And I saw Jalen Brunson and what he brought to that team, and I knew the chasm that his absence would cause on the Mavs and what he would bring in terms of mid-range isolation, pick and roll basketball. I saw what he did with Powell. I knew it'd be tenfold with Julius Randle and how clutch he was in the playoffs. And he was a very good three-point shooter, but he was only shooting 2 or 3 three-pointers a game. And I told Jay Ellis then, if he can raise that to 5 or 6, it's going to open up the offense so much more. And look what happened. I was 50 burger then, and I'm 50 burger now. Man, I think this is I agree with you 100%. It's a 50-win team because of the balance of the roster. We have so many very talented multidimensional bigs and so many talented multidimensional guards. We are small on the perimeter, but we're talented on the perimeter. We have guys with ceiling. IQ is not where he's going to be for the rest of his career. Same thing with Grimes. Yeah. Same thing with Brunson. Same thing with Mitch. These guys have ceiling. I'm praying to every guy out there.
I feel like Mitch ain't even gotten started.
Yeah, I agree. And that the optimism to me is buoyant right now. And you got stats? I got some too. Listen to this, man. This is for the whole season. The top 5 teams with the worst records against teams with over 500 records. The Knicks are 5th worst in the NBA, 15-18. Cavs are 4th worst, 14-18. But like you said, since December 1st, the Knicks are the 2nd best team against teams with an over 500 record, 7-5. That shows a magnitude of that turnaround, which during the month of December was incremental, but you were battling injuries, and you still had that awful Mavs loss in the end of December, which I was there live and direct.
December 3rd.
Booed out the stadium.
You were there?
Once January hit, that rate spiked upward because that's when we tightened the rotation. Mitch came back, and then Hart eventually was added, and it's just like it's leveling up after leveling up. And we're seeing a completely different team now than we did back in November.
Totally. And you know what? It takes time, too, for guys to figure it out. Understand, where I don't even think Brunson even knew that he was going to be such a beast from above the break there and behind the arc. I mean, he's almost automatic. Either step into it or step back. He's automatic from that spot on the right side. Incredible. And I think we're underutilizing Grimes offensively.
Agreed.
So we still have much more there. There's more gold in that ore, and that we got to get in there, get more. And Mitch, I mean, we're seeing it somewhat more, but not really at the level that it could be a Brunson Mitch dynamic. Agreed. It's just kind of developing. I think that's something in the last 19 games. That's something we'll talk about later. What should the Knicks be focusing on improving in this final home stretch? We got a nice super chat from Buzzer Beater. Thank you so much, brother. IQ for 6th man of the year. Is Leon Rose exec of the year? If not, who? Ooh, good question. Good question. Yeah, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into specifically IQ for 6th man of the year and the exec of the year. That's going to be a tricky one. That's going to be a tricky one. I don't know if Leon's going to be able to stake a claim for that this season, but we shall see. We shall see. Hey, you never know. I mean, I don't even know who else would be.
Maybe the Phoenix Suns guy because of a Durant, James Johnson in Phoenix because of getting Durant. But I thought Leon won free agency in the summer. Brunson was the best summer signing, and I thought I wrote an article about it because I felt so strongly about it. Josh Hart was the 2nd best deadline acquisition after Durant. When you count intangibles defensive impact, offensive impact, efficiency rating, spiking in usage. Look what he's done. We're undefeated in his era. Kyrie Irving was a splasher name, but now they're 1-4 when him and Luka play together on the Mavs. So I would argue, and I did argue, Josh Hart was the second best deadline pickup.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. In terms of a role player, I think Hart by far the best pickup. There's been in the NBA in a while, probably during season, mid-season. All right, let's. You have anything else to throw in? Shout out to the chat. We got a nice group here. Got over 136. Hit that thumbs up button for us. That'd be great. And share this video and drop your comments. And don't forget to follow Lee on Twitter and the Nick of Time show. You should check out their show. It's a fantastic post game. I love it. I check it out. I watch almost all of them.
He does. I see it.
Yeah. I have to watch them on replay because I'm working on my recap while you guys are actually live. And I always wonder, it's like, should I just jump on live? It's always like a conflict. It's always a conflict. But we got Alex Quispe. What's up, brother? See 90s Knicks. What's up? Carlos Villa. How you doing, brother? Thanks for the shout out. Appreciated that. Jean-Marc. No, he is Don Fanucci. That's a good one. I think the Suns. But kind of KD kind of made that happen, or should we say Kyrie? Kyrie made that happen. What do you think? Before we go a little further, just to spend a few moments before we get into the 6 Man of the Year topic, how do you feel about Kyrie in Dallas? Since you live in Dallas, you've watched him a lot. Just your real honest assessment about adding him to that roster. And I ask you because it's hard for me to talk about him because I have so many other issues with Kyrie in general. So it's hard sometimes for me to separate my personal issues with him from basketball. So that's why I'm putting this question to you.
The issues that they faced being 1-4 when both of them play, and I think like 2-7 or 3-7 overall has nothing to do. 3-7 overall has nothing to do with Kyrie Irving. I've also watched every game. It's Jason Kidd is the common denominator to all of their qualms and issues. He is, in my opinion, the worst coach in the NBA and has been at all three stops when he was in Brooklyn and then Milwaukee and now in Dallas. It's a lot of the same things as Tibbs. It's an outdated defense. It's an uninspiring offense predicated on isolation plays and chucking three-pointers. He has no mid-range game, no pick-and-roll game. He utilizes players that do not put the team in the best team success position. Like all of a sudden, Josh Green is no longer starting, and the new guy they brought in, Justin Holiday, former Knick, is now starting in his place, which makes no sense when Josh Green is like the Immanuel Quickley of the Mavs. He dominates in all the advanced metrics. All the best five-man rotations have Josh Green in them, and now he's on the bench. Christian Wood, their third best facilitator and three-level scorer, only plays in the 30 minutes and doesn't start or finish games. He has an over-reliance on Dwight Powell, over-reliance on Reggie Bullock, who we know very well. And every out-of-bounds play, an end-of-game situation, it's just dribble, ISO. And it ends up, most of the time, being a brick. I think they're 1-10 in last-second shots at the end of regulation for game winners. So what Jason Kidd needs to go. I wrote a long 3,000-word piece for Sports Not Today that published about why Jason Kidd is a cancer to that team and needs to be fired. I think he's at Luke Walton, David Fizdale level of a coach, but he's just a lot more arrogant.
You should drop the link in the chat for people.
What's happened is not Kyrie Irving's fault, but I think he will leave this summer. He's unrestricted, which is going to create an apocalyptic, cataclysmic event in Dallas. That I think the next domino fall will be Luka demanding out. I don't see any reason why Irving would stay. The trajectory is downward, not upward. I think there's better situations for him in different spots around the league.
Yeah, I think for sure he's going to end up a Laker. There's no doubt, in my opinion. Lakers are clearing up the money to be able to do that in the summer.
I see that too.
All right, great. Well, thank you for that, and thank you, Jean-Marc, for the super chat. Jean-Marc's asked, "Keep trying to see what player will get us to the championship. Can you suggest someone?" This is a great topic. In fact, I'm going to do a screenshot because we can build a whole show around that. But just off the top of our heads, let's pick 3 guys, each of us. We'll go one at a time. I'll throw the first one out. Paul George.
Brandon Ingram.
Nice one.
Yeah, we talked about in the KOT, and it's so funny. Every topic we talked about, I just had an article come out this week about it. I also wrote it for Sportsnaut. Like what 3 guys, for Post and Toasting, what 3 guys would put the Knicks into basically a level of contention.
Yeah. Obviously, you're talking about real possibility, I'm
Correct.
assuming.
Yes.
Let's not get crazy, because obviously Joel Embiid, but we may have to wait a while for that. Number 2, realistic. Well, definitely. I think it'd be God, number 2. See, I struggle with this question, honestly. Obviously, it would be the other Clipper, Kawhi, but he just doesn't play enough games.
Also, is that realistic? I don't see him going anywhere off that 2-year extension. And by the time he is available for agency, he's going to be his mid-30s. I just don't know if he'll be that guy by then.
Yeah. I was thinking about somebody that even possible that somebody might pop up during the summer. If the Clippers fizzle out, nothing happens, they're not going to go. They're not going to go another round with that team.
Yeah,
they'll make some adjustments. So one of those 2 guys will have to go, so that they can. They might send them both going. They might. What's the point of hanging on to one or the other unless you replace them with somebody that's even better, or 2 get 2, B+ levels for their 1A guy. So I don't know. I think the Clippers are a team that if they don't make it to the Western Conference Finals, that team will get broken up.
Yeah. Kawhi was my number 1 target for like the last 3 or 4 years. I wanted him in with the Knicks in New York. I just don't know if it's as realistic then as it was now. I also don't think we need that level of player anymore. I think we've advanced far enough to where we can take someone a little bit in a level below that, a tier below that.
I would never want to go a tier below if you can get if you can get a guy like that. But I'll put Kawhi as number 2, because I do if I'm thinking PG will become available, then Kawhi would be the other one. So I'll put him as number 2, also because I can't even come up with another one right now, because Zach LaVine isn't going to do it. Karl Anthony Towns isn't going to do it unless he goes through a major epiphany, and that's possible. The guy's got talent, but defensively he'd have to change dramatically. Who else we got? Anthony Edwards. There's no way the Timberwolves are gonna part with him.
Man, he's my number 1 right now. I want him so bad.
LaMelo Ball was the other guy I was thinking. LaMelo would be awesome with Brunson.
Yep.
Because Brunson knows how to play with a ball dominant large guard.
Yep.
So he would be the other guy. So my third guy would be LaMelo Ball. There's slight little rumors that the Hornets might do something with him in the offseason, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
What are your 2 and 3?
I love Ingram on the cheap. If we didn't get him at a value trade, I wouldn't want to give up the farm for him, but I think he has another level offensively that hasn't been tapped into. Anthony Edwards is my number 1 choice. I think we would win a championship the first year that we had him, as long as we retain Brunson, Mitch, and Randall. And I also, I don't think Mikal Bridges is a level of guy that we need, but I would take a flyer on Jimmy Butler. If Jimmy Butler became available this summer.
Wait. Sorry. I missed it. So your number 1 was?
Number 1's Anthony Edwards. Number 2 would be Brandon Ingram. And then I would take a flyer on Jimmy Butler if we didn't give up the farm on him.
Okay.
LaMelo Ball is a better player than Jimmy Butler right now, especially for the future and projecting. I just think a LaMelo Ball trade would take a lot of what we have in the cachet. I think we could retain a lot of the players that we have and just give Miami picks instead of guys, and keep the core. Jimmy loved Tibbs and Tibbs loved Jimmy, man. That's been up 3. We could go all the way with that.
I think the shelf life is short on that. I think Butler, basically, it's next year. That's it. You wouldn't. You'd have to be like Knicks would have to have gotten to the Eastern Conference Finals this season. Gotten really close, and then you add Butler to this team without having to give up too much. Maybe it's just picks.
Yeah.
And like a juicy young guy, like an Obi, and maybe some other elements.
Obi and Grimes.
I wouldn't even want to give up Grimes. I don't.
You keep Hart and IQ and RJ, or
God.
Obi and RJ.
Oof. Yeah, I mean, I would Obi and RJ. See, even that feels like a lot, considering you're only looking at one really high level productive season left. I mean, I'm projecting for Jimmy Butler, but he definitely would be good at getting us over the hump. I just don't see us being something you could replicate for another season after that, another season after that. It's be a one shot type of thing.
Yeah, he's 33 and aging.
Yeah. All right, so then we have we throw out like 6 guys. I don't think Ant Edwards is going to be available unless he makes a big stink, unless he demands a trade, which you never know. Man, you never know.
My number one guy I would want him and SGA, but I think SGA is untouchable. But Edwards, you're right. If Minnesota craters, man, he could be available.
He could. I could see him doing it. Buzzer Beater came through with another super chat. He said, Lee, do you see any KD in Brandon Ingram?
No. Maybe a similar body type, but in terms of like prodigy and talent and how he's projecting, no. KD's too special. KD's like, top 15 all time. Some people would argue top 10. But I think BI can be a really elite scorer. I worry about him as a first option, but him and Brunson and Randall would be so on par with each other. That's a really dangerous 3.
Ingram to me is like a B plus ish version of KD, but KD is so. I mean, if you saw him in college, just that one season he had, it was obvious. I was like, this guy's incredible.
Yep,
this guy's going to be one of the best of all time, and he's only lived up to that. In my opinion, when he's healthy and playing, he is the best player in the NBA.
Ooh, I still go Giannis, but that's interesting.
I think KD is better than Giannis.
Wow.
When healthy. Giannis still has that free throw issue, that weakness, which in playoffs, it worked out once. It took him having to hit 17 of 18 free throws, something miraculous for him, which is still kind of bizarre that he was even able to pull it together. But I love Giannis, but I think overall KD's just much more skilled. He's much more skilled than almost everybody in the game. But so Brandon Ingram is similar type, and he would be a nice addition to the Knicks. I think if to me, he seems to lack a fire. He doesn't have that dog mentality. See, KD has all the talent in the world, but he's also a dog. So I don't know if Brandon Ingram has that, but that may be just something.
He's only been in the playoff once, and he had it last series against the Suns. He played his ass off. There was a point where I was like, is he as good as Jason Tatum? Because my man was balling against Phoenix. Like Bridges, no one could stop him. Booker, nobody could stop him. He dueled with Devin Booker, and I think outplayed him.
All right, there you go. The case has been made for Brandon Ingram.
Lakers are reunited.
Yeah.
Randall, him, and Hart.
All right. Shout out to the chat. Thank you guys for joining us. I see Lex the Destroyer's in the house. Thank you, brother. Best mod around. What else we got? We got Survey 100 people. Salute, brother. Webb. Who else is in here? Bricks Nation. Let's go. All right, let's go. Let's get to the big topic here, which is Immanuel Quickley as 6th man of the year candidate. So here, when you look at the Vegas odds, and this was updated today, 6th man of the year. Malcolm Brogdon is the leading candidate right now. Norman Powell's number 2, Tyrese Maxey's number 3, and Russell Westbrook is number 4. I'm throwing Immanuel Quickley up here. These are their stats in general, and in the orange are their actual plus minus numbers for the season for each of these players. Malcolm Brogdon is an average per game plus 1.9, and in total plus minus. That means all the points scored while they're on the floor. Malcolm Brogdon is a plus 101. Norman Powell is exactly the reverse. He's a minus 101, and he's a minus 1.9. So the fact that he's even number 2 in this is crazy. So we'll just skip past that and go to Tyrese Maxey. who is a plus 3.3, and he is a plus 133. Now, Tyrese did start for some parts of the season, so that's also meshed into this. So the only criteria for sixth man of the year is that you need to have come off the bench more than you've started. That's the only criteria. Then Russell Westbrook, another kind of head shake, head scratcher. Why is he even being considered? And now he's on the Clippers with Norman Powell, which is on. He's a minus 1.1 and a minus 58 in total. When you look at Immanuel Quickley, the numbers start getting shockingly scary. He is a plus 3.8. Now, he plays less minutes than all four of these other guys' averages. But in total plus minus, he's a plus 234. So while every single minute that Immanuel Quickley's been on a court in the NBA this season, the Knicks have outscored in totality the opponent by 234 points. That's kind of hard to argue against. It's pretty wild. But Lee believes that Malcolm Brogdon is the deserving candidate to be number. And he really is the only one of these other than Quickley, the only other one that actually has a bona fide case, in my opinion. He is definitely the leading candidate, for sure. Lee?
Yeah. I try to remain objective on this, and there was a point with the Lakers I thought Russell Westbrook should be in the conversation for sixth man of the year, but since he's taken the Clippers, he's actually started and finished more games than he has off the bench, and he's had I would argue he's had maybe a more negative impact on the Clippers than he even did the Lakers, because they just haven't been winning. We'll see how that turns out. Malcolm Brogdon is
still new. It's still new. I think Tyler will eventually take him out of the starting lineup.
Brogdon is my choice because he's playing a career low in minutes, while at the same time hitting a career high in 3-point percentage and effective field goal, a very important measure of how effective he is within the flow of the offense and where his points are coming and how his points are coming. He's hitting a career high in that metric as well, while playing fewer minutes than he ever has in his career with Indiana and Milwaukee. He's also a true bench guy. Like, there's no way he's better or starting over Marcus Smart, former defensive player of the year, or Jaylen Brown. It's just not happening. So to me, he's a legitimate bench guy, whereas Quickley, while he's not starting, finishes almost every single game. Like, he's finishing over Grimes, I would argue, more times than not. So I like Malcolm Brogdon in that role because I think he's taken them to another level. And if he wasn't there, I think they would have stepped back a little bit with the loss of Udoka, who I view very highly, regard very highly. I think Brogdon's stability has helped them maintain a killer's edge and mentality in the East and remain at the top of the standings because of his addition, veteran presence, and playoff experience as well. So he's my guy. He's my pick. If Quickley won, I would be even happier than if I won this argument, because I think Quickley has a really high ceiling and is on his way to becoming maybe our third or fourth best player. He might already even be there. But this season, I think Brogdon's earned it. Next season and the seasons after, he could end up. This is IQ I'm talking about. End up like Lou Williams, his idol and mentor, as someone who wins it multiple times throughout the year. But right now, IQ reminds me more of like Leandro Barbosa, Manu Ginobili, where he's kind of like a bench player by proxy, but in reality, he finishes most games and is there in that finishing five. Where Brogdon doesn't always finish games, is more situational depending on the matchups, and he torched this last game too.
He did, and yet Quickley still outplayed him.
I would say it was a draw.
You would say it was a draw? Yeah. I'd give the if this was judges, I'd give IQ the win in terms of judges scorecards. But it was close for sure. I mean, I think it was like they both scored. I think one scored 25 points, the other scored 23.
Yeah, I thought Brogdon played the best of anyone on the Celtics.
They did. He hurt us the most. His length, he has that long wingspan, and he's able to get around a defender and
high IQ.
Very high. And his efficiency numbers are consistent and fantastic off the board. Absolutely. I just don't see a dramatic sea change in terms of how the unit functions on the floor as dramatic as when IQ comes on the court, as opposed to how Brogdon comes on the court. Now, Brogdon's coming onto the court with a higher quality overall roster. I mean, they have a better team, so it's harder for him to make a bigger impact. But it's hard to deny the injection of energy and tenacity that IQ provides the minute he hits the court. And his smile, I think it just lifts everybody. And his defense has been outstanding. Now, Brogdon is a very good defender as well. But when you get into the actual metrics, and you make a great argument for Brogdon. And if Brogdon won, I'd be fine. But if like Maxey won, I'd be like, what?
Yeah.
But the thing is, Quickley's barely cracking into people who actually vote, barely cracking into their top 10s about now. Now he's starting to. I'm hearing the conversation starting to. Let's get to this article by Ian Begley, who put this out. He tweeted this out. This is a quote. He's one of the biggest reasons why the Knicks are 11 games over 500 over the past 3 months. How Immanuel Quickley is making the case for NBA Sixth Man of the Year. In the 8 games prior to Wednesday's game against Brooklyn, Quickley's averaging 15.8 points per game on 53% shooting, 44% from behind the arc, 2.5 assists, and almost 4 rebounds per game. The team is 7-1 in those games. The Knicks are 26-14 since Thibodeau cut his rotation to 9 players, which we showed you that earlier. Quickley's been one of the biggest reasons behind that season-changing run. New York has a plus 11.1 net rating with him on the court in that span. He is averaging 13.6 points on 48% shooting, 39% from the 3, 5 attempts per game, and has a 2.6 to 1 assist to turnover ratio, which is fantastic. His rebounding has also been impactful. Only Brogdon, 222, and Westbrook, 301, have more total rebounds than Quickley among reserve guards, 201. Then we look at this. I love this part here. So this is from 538. This is the Raptor scores. This is the WAR, wins above replacement. In the entire NBA, Immanuel Quickley is 44th in the entire NBA with a 4.4 wins above replacement. Malcolm Brogdon is 90th with a 2.5. Tyrese Maxey is 136th with a 1.7. Norman Powell is 159th with a 1.3. And Russell Westbrook is 192 with a 0.6. So when you look at that, you're like, wow. And then this is the one stat that I was referencing in my other video about how dangerous the Knicks are because they have players who are in the upper echelon in terms of performance throughout the league in different areas. Immanuel Quickley, in terms of on-off Raptor, is the number 1 defensive player in the NBA with a plus 7.8. Dennis Smith Jr., surprisingly, is number 2, but he plays a lot less minutes. Jaren Jackson Jr. is number 3, which you can see. He's a tremendous defensive force. Joel Embiid's number 4, tied with Franz Wagner, Caruso, Okogie, Damian Lee, Anthony Davis, and then our guy, Mitch Robinson, number 9 right there, tied with AD. So you can see this stat. When you look at this chart, this chart is indicative of the best defensive players in the game right now. And Quickley is number 1. Number 1.
I don't want to rain on the parade. I love Quickley, defended Quickley, part of the IQ hive. But just in terms of Brogdon, these stats are a little skewed because Quickley's coming in for Quentin Grimes. So we think about on-off. Who's coming off? Quentin Grimes. Who's coming on? Immanuel Quickley. When Brogdon comes in a game, who's coming off? Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart. So it's a major chasm between the on-off and the Celtics situation with Brogdon and the on-off and the Knicks situation with Quickley when Quickley's coming in. Some of those minutes are Brunson too, but the majority of it is him.
He has been sharing a good amount of minutes with Brunson in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so I would argue he's playing more 2 guard minutes than he is point guard minutes because actually they're playing him Tibbs is playing him alongside Brunson because that's how much a lethal lineup to finish games. So I think Brogdon deserves a little bit more credit because he's coming in and maintaining a lead in all those advanced metrics, even though he's substituting in for the defensive player of the year in Smart and an all-star in Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, the game is good. I totally yes, I agree that is a major factor. However, even when you look at Brogdon's overall Raptor score, which does factor that in, he's still a minus 1.6 in terms of defense. So Brogdon is not bringing it defensively this season. And it does, yes, who he's replacing does make a big difference, but that's where IQ has the major leg up. Yes, Brogdon's a much more skilled and efficient offensive player than Quickley is at the moment. But Quickley, let's put it this way, Lee, 19 games left. If things continue as they are, I think by the end of this season, Quickley could make a very legitimate argument to be the number 2, if not number 1 guy in the voting for Sixth Man of the Year.
I don't know. Brogdon has a better defense. I just looked it up. Brogdon has a better defensive rating than Immanuel Quickley right now. Quickley's at 115.2 and Brogdon's at 113.2. So I think I would argue that.
Yeah, but that is also predicated upon who the players are on the court with him. Whereby on-off shows you what happens when they come on and they leave. So yeah, I mean that's why it's good to look at all those numbers.
True, but both teams have a very good defensive team in general. So it's not like there's a huge drop off with one or the other, depending on what players are playing around them and how that lifts up or brings down their defensive metric as well. They're both pretty much constantly surrounded by really good defense players, whether it be Robert Williams and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, or whether it be Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle and Quentin Grimes.
Yeah, I just got this text. Okay. All right, so there you go. There it is. We got that's why it's good to look at all the different variable numbers. Malcolm Brogdon is very deserving of being the leading candidate. Absolutely. My opinion, Immanuel Quickley should get serious consideration for it.
I agree there. And if he wins, it's a win-win, man. It's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am mad at it.
Buzzer Beater came through with another super chat. He asks, should the Knicks take a flyer on Miles Bridges?
The Charlotte Hornet player?
Yeah.
Hell no.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it first.
I mean, I want to drop the F-bomb. Like that's
no. In terms of talent, of course, but not mental makeup. That's one of the great things that we have on this team is great chemistry. Great high quality guys. No one's really stepping out of line. No one's creating any page 6 type stories. I wouldn't want to take a chance. Also, Miles Bridges in New York. That could be very, very bad.
I'm praying that question's rhetorical, and he just wants to hear us respond with a little bit of enthusiasm against it. But there's a huge difference between what Udoka did sleeping around in the front office, or even what Kyrie Irving did saying the earth's flat or spreading anti-Semitic propaganda. This guy beat his girlfriend in the face. She needs surgery in front of her kids. Like, this guy should never be in the NBA again, in my opinion. He should be completely banned. He should be in prison, but he got a great plea deal.
Yeah, I don't want him anywhere near.
Hell no.
Our squad. In terms of talent and ability, I mean, look, if he goes, he does rehab and gets some serious counseling. There's no. I'm not going to get in the way with anyone earning. And if he committed a crime, he should definitely do the time. But in terms of, I'm never going to write someone off forever if they're willing to make changes and become a better human being. That's what this whole process is about. So, he's still young. I could see him 3 years from now trying to make a comeback, and maybe he'll be even a little in better shape, a little slimmer and stuff. He could, because he definitely, in terms of talent, he was looking really good about a year and a half ago.
He's looking better than Mikal Bridges.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Much more impactful a year and a half ago. Yeah.
In the chat, Gene Mart said they took a flyer on Sprewell. Why not? Sprewell choked another grown man. This guy beat a woman. Yeah. Yeah. Like, there's no like.
And then Spree did some work. Spree did some work as well. So, if Miles is willing to do some work, for sure. Yeah. But that's a big if. All right, the game's going to start soon. Let's get into the quick. We always wait till the very end. Here we go. The tail of the tape. The last 10 games, the Nets are 7-3. Of course, they've had major changes during this period. KD and Kyrie are both gone. They're scoring, averaging 110.7 points per game, only barely 39 rebounds per game, 22.6 assists per game. Somehow they're still averaging more assists per game than we do. Field goal percentage, they're at 45.7, and three-point percentage, they're at 37.5, which is almost exactly what the Knicks are at. The Knicks are shooting better overall, 48.4%, and they are scoring much more, so 117 points per game. And they're 8-2 in the past 10 games. And they've won 6 straight, and they're going to win their 7th straight in about 2.5 hours.
Indeed, they are.
Indeed, they are. Indeed, they are. And Alejandro Barquero says, no wife beaters on the locker room, please. That's right. That's right. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching this. We are going to put this show to bed. The game's about to start. The battle for New York. It's not going to be much of a battle, let's hope, but you never know. Brooklyn they have good quality players. At any given, they have the type of roster, they put it together, they can beat anybody any given night. They do have that kind of roster.
Agreed.
Yeah, so we'll see. All right, thank you so much, Lee. Any last sign off?
I'm really hoping for a Cleveland matchup. I think we match up really well with them. Cleveland, oddly enough, has the best bench plus minus in the lead with 102, which is 10 points higher than number 2 in Phoenix. But just because they have high efficiency players doesn't mean they have highly talented players. Having a lot of those guys, the Raul Netos, the Dean Wades, Karis LeVert, they might be efficient, but no one stare at those guys. And I think we would wipe them out. Bench, coaching, and they have a terrible small forward offensively in Isaac Okoro. We're just a better offensive team. You shut down one of Garland or Mitchell, you die in the bag.
There he is. I agree totally. Lex the Destroyer, thanks so much for holding it down for us. We serve 100 people. The rest of the chat, thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, please subscribe, share this video, follow us on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and all that jazz, and share this video. And we will see you around the Knicks-Verse.